Ladies and gentlemen,
boys and girls,
Colt Capperrune.
Cappuccino. Did you see the video I did with Jonathan Morrison and your boy Mike Cole roasting me?
Yeah, that was good. Mike is a funny and strange dude. I met him when I was driving for Uber. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Yeah, so when I first moved to Nashville for some extra cash, I was driving for Uber, and I was giving Mike a ride and his mom. And his mom and I really hit it off. I'm good with
That's
people's
hilarious.
I'm good with people's parents. People's parents like me.
Yeah.
So her and I were chit-chatting, and she's like, "Oh, what do you do?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, audio engineer who drives for Uber, and she's like, "My son just went to audio school and is gonna be moving here. That's so cool." And he didn't care at all. He was in headphones, tuned out, and wasn't paying attention.
He's young, right?
Yeah. He's 20. I think he's 27 now.
Okay.
And I could be wrong. Sorry, Mike. Excuse me. But eventually, like 10, 15 minutes into it, he goes like this. He goes, "Is this Where the Light Is?" I was listening. Oh, you're not a John Mayer fanboy like we are. Where the Light Is a live DVD performance.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have
from
known
John Mayer.
Okay.
It is the top live performance DVD that you can get.
Really?
Oh yeah, that's what made me like John. I never liked John Mayer until I saw the DVD.
I'll have to check it out because I've got a couple that are way up there as well.
And it's, like you'd have to really know the set to know that it was him, because he does 3 sets.
Got it.
There's just an acoustic set, then he does the blues trio with Steve Jordan and Pino Palladino.
Oh, that's cool.
And he does a bunch of blues songs. He doesn't do any of his pop stuff.
Not his own.
And then at the end, he does all the pop stuff with like the full big band.
Got it.
But it was on the blues thing, and he, the second he said that, I was like, my guy. I was like, "You, of course it is."
Yeah.
It's like, "You like John Mayer?" He's like, "Bro, I love John Mayer." So that ignited our friendship, and we exchanged numbers. He moved here, and funny enough, he and I both started our channels at the exact same time. So like,
what?
In 2019, I started prepping to post videos, and I had like all these ideas of like, should you go to recording school and like
I did
Pro
that
Tools
video
versus
too.
Yeah. and then I was like, I'm gonna do interviews with people, and I basically, those were all practice, and most of them I didn't put up, but I did one with him when I was at this spot in East Nashville, which is a whole thing. But he and I both, he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start too, and I'm gonna do daily vlogs, and I'm gonna do one every day for 100 days." So that's when he started.
Like Casey Neistat style.
No.
Oh, sorry.
No. Sorry, Mike. They're all private now.
Okay.
But it was like 2 minutes of him just talking. So that was it.
Got it.
But that's how our relationship started. And then after that, we would hang out every once in a while. He'd come over and play, and maybe we'd record a little bit. But yeah, funny dude. And now it's amazing.
So funny.
His channel is just destroying my channel.
Yeah. I had no idea he's been doing it that long, because if you look at his channel now, I'm like, this dude is absolutely crushing it. And it was awesome. Probably he got some of that confidence because he's crushing it, or maybe not. But like the fact that he was willing to sit down and just roast me on camera the first time he ever met me.
Oh, yeah.
Like I walked in the door and he's like, "Bro, it's so good to meet you. I've been watching your videos forever."
Yeah.
And then we sat down and he's like, "Colt Cappuccino, so you make lattes." And I'm like, the fact that Starbucks employees like Colt, and I'm like, oh my God, just went for it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
But he does that stuff in a way, like if I sat down and said that to someone else, the whole world would be like, Colt is a raging douche.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't put, he has this like thing about him where he can do that, and it's funny no matter what he's saying. And I wish that I could be funny like that. I just come off like a dick when I try to do stuff like that.
I think I can too. I and I'm trying to be a little more aware of it, because as a rule, I don't ever take anything seriously. I am serious about what I do, but I don't take anything too seriously when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's just more fun that way. But there's this dude, Rudy. I can't remember his last name. Guitar YouTuber, but he does a lot of like the skits, and he has a super dry sense of humor too. I've only seen a few of it, like literally 2 or 3 of his videos, and 2 of them were him going to NAMM, and it's the best NAMM videos I've ever seen, dude. It's just him like, so I'm going to NAMM today. It's gonna be really loud, so I got these earplugs. You know, and it's like him walking in, and it's just like the camera mic of all the sound, and it's just like his face. He's like, you know, and he's like going to like different booths and stuff, and it is absolutely, it's so good.
That's amazing. Totally off the music topic, but you know who Gerald Undone is?
Of course.
Yeah, Gerald Undone, like filmmaking, camera reviewer, YouTuber, like the GOAT maybe.
Let's get undone.
Let's get undone. Dun, 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 dun. He's crazy. Anyway.
Beautiful.
He did NAB. Like, NAB is like the camera NAMM.
Of course.
It is the single greatest coverage of any trade show I've ever seen in my life. It's such a good, funny video, and it like makes light of this, of everyone there trying to be serious and like trying to be serious gear reviewers when he's like probably the best and most accomplished gear reviewer there is in that space.
Yeah.
It's just chaos, and he runs out of space on his memory card right as he finds the booth he's looking for, and like it's just, yeah, you gotta check that one out. It's really good. It's really good. I literally commented on it, and I'm like, this video made me realize how much I failed at my coverage of NAMM. Like, so good.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So, dude, what's up? How have you been?
Good. Going crazy, honestly, with this. I don't know if we want to jump right into that, but if this whole Atmos thing.
What's that for people who don't know? What's Atmos?
Atmos is this conspiracy.
I love it.
Putting forward by the music industry and big tech to ruin home studios and the little guy. See, this is where, like, if Mike would have said that, people would have been laughing.
Yeah.
But people are going to take that serious. That's going to get clipped, and people are like, Colt admits it.
I'm going to clip it, and I'm going to put it up.
Atmos is like the new surround sound, but it's 360-degree audio, where audio can come from any location around you.
Okay.
And I'm putting one
into your studio.
In my studio.
Okay, so this is, again, for the average listener, something that is going to be used for everyday music listening. Listening
and mixing, and and like you can all, this format it's called Atmos. Apple Music has it as spatial audio. You want to get like super green
immersive
with this, or immersive, immersive audio. You already can listen to it via Apple Music with AirPod Pros or AirPod Maxes or the Beats or any of that stuff. And like half the stuff on Netflix is mixed in it. Like just it's getting to the point where just about everything you listen to, if it's not on Spotify, it's probably mixed in Atmos. And so I was feeling forced into it for a long time. After I've spent a bunch of time in the format, now I'm so pumped about the creative side and like the emotional impact that it has. I'm super, super pumped for that. But man, it's a lot. Like figuring the rig out, and like I got Gavin Haverstick, who's a big studio designer, and Josh from Focal, and like we're in an email thread, and they're like debating over like speaker placement, and everything's got to be like down to the millimeter of all these speakers, of like 14 speakers, and like oh, your ceiling isn't actually high enough, so we need to raise your ceiling cloud and modify everything and bass traps this. And so it's like putting the rig in is just, it's a lot. And then doing everything the way that me and you do stuff, it's like I'm creating an entire series around it. So it's figuring out the rig, figuring out how to put it in, getting all the technical stuff worked out, and then bullet pointing the videos and making sure the videos get done in a right way. And then, I mean, I think everyone knows at this point, like every video has sponsors. So like then working those sponsors out in every video, whether it's Sweetwater or someone else. So it's like just any one of those things on their own is a lot of work. Yeah. And then all of those things happening simultaneously, all at the same time. It's a lot, and I'm ready for it to be over. I'm ready to just get back to work in music.
So for those who are listening, Colt and I both record and mix music, much more him than I now, as audio engineers, and we have YouTube channels. That is very much our primary work. That I'll speak for myself here. That is my primary work that I fully enjoy, and it's my creative outlet, and it's, you know,
it is very creatively satisfying.
Yeah. So whenever we embark on something in the engineering side of things or the music side of things, it's really cool to be able to tell that story through the videos that we post.
And document the process and share that with everyone else. Sharing
it is like the coolest part from the perspective of a viewer. I went to a recording school and did no formal college, and because of that, I felt like, oh my God, I need to learn about money. I need to learn about like credit and like how to get a house and all. So I just used YouTube. I went to YouTube Academy, as they call it. And when I've been able to learn about so many things from YouTube, I learned like, oh man, there's so much opportunity to share so many other different things that either you or I have experienced and through our own way of telling that story. And it's just super duper fun. So you're jumping headfirst into Atmos, and also for context, you had already built a crazy room in your house and spent a ton of money.
A fortune. We built the house around the studio, like literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot just getting the room up and going. And now this next change that's coming to the room will be bigger than even building that. Like just new clouds, new bass traps, new treatments, and then obviously all the gear that's going in. It's a lot.
And it's in your house.
And it's in my house.
What's cool about your room, because we have technically similar rooms.
We have the same room, bro.
No, we don't. I wish.
If you listen to anyone on YouTube, we have the exact same room.
I wish.
In the YouTube comments.
They say that about every bonus room. They're like, oh, it's all the same studio.
I see angled ceilings and a mastering style console. It must be the same room.
Yeah.
No, it's just if you're in your home, it's probably the best way you can have a studio set up.
It's the room no bedrooms are in.
Right, exactly. It's the biggest room in the house.
Yeah.
With the highest ceilings with no bedrooms.
Yep. Well, in your case, high ceilings. Your room is super badass.
Thank you.
Big, giant ceilings, big, huge, even the angles of the ceilings. I mean, mine is a massive step up from what my previous room was. But it's shrinking.
This room is a very, very well-equipped, serious home studio. But I feel you, the more stuff you put in here, the room gets small fast.
Yes.
Yeah. So much so that I'm currently redoing my lounge to be a B room with a whole. Oh, cool. A whole. It's
video in the B room.
Well,
like video editing or whatever.
I mean, yes, it's been that for a while. But cool. My room, like my work is still from an hourly perspective. It's still 80% music, and YouTube is like 15 or 20% of what I actually do hourly.
Yeah.
And I probably need to hire an assistant pretty quick.
For YouTube?
No, for music.
For music, yeah.
for both. If anyone is out there and is listening to this and you're a pro video editor and a pro editor in Pro Tools and like great with photography and like maybe a brain surgeon on top of it, like that's what I'm looking for.
Ryan, don't even think about it. You're mine.
But so I'm acoustically treating and putting a whole like Pro Tools rig in the B room. So that way, while the A room is getting redone for Atmos, I actually can still physically work.
Okay.
And then once the A room is done with Atmos, then I'll probably end up hiring somebody in both rooms. Will be going all the time.
That's pretty cool.
It's cool, but again, it's just one more thing added to the list. It's a lot. What were we talking about with YouTube?
I was just asking about your room and putting it together. I have a unhealthy obsession with the thought behind why a room is set up, how it was set up, the way it's used, and I'm realizing I think I have some like deep-rooted issues, which are why I am obsessed with the things I'm obsessed with. I literally scheduled my day today in 10 to 30 minute segments starting at 4:45 this morning. Like all the way through the whole day.
But actually written down.
Written down?
Yeah. I'm not OCD about scheduling, but it's like only sessions go in my calendar, like with clients. But yes, I'm the same way. I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to have my kid up at this time. She's going to be at school by this time. That gives me this amount of minutes to make my espresso and whatever. And then this, like everything, it drives my wife insane. Same,
dude.
Also, because I will count, it just, to me, it seems so normal. I'll count backwards. Like, oh, we have whatever, a dinner at 6 p.m.
Yep.
Okay, how far away is the dinner? It's 35 minutes away. How long does it take me to get dressed? 10 minutes. How long does it take me to shower? 15 minutes. How long does it take me to... And then you just count backwards, and then when that time hits, oh, time to go get ready. XYZ, we're at the dinner on time.
Yeah.
My lovely wife is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, our wives are better than us, for sure. But
well, more relaxed.
Very
it's probably
different.
a higher quality of life than this level of OCD.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not fun. It's not fun always being like, I told my wife the other night, I was like, why do I get so stressed? I was 10 minutes late today. That drove me insane. I told you I'd be here at 10.
Yeah.
And by the time I actually was like leaving and like got a coffee and then it was 10:10 and like it makes me literally uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, same.
Like it makes me agitated to be late.
All right, so here's a segue. We're both from Illinois.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Kind of the same town.
Yeah. Yeah, what part of Peoria? Right, what part of Peoria were you in?
Well, so I was born in Peoria. I lived in Bradford, Illinois until I graduated high school.
Where's that?
It's like 40 minutes north of Peoria. But all my family was in Peoria, and we spent multiple days a week in Peoria, like every week. I graduated high school, moved to Peoria, and then when I first moved to Peoria, I lived like 2 blocks behind Flores Music off War Memorial.
Yeah.
So I lived there for a long time, met my now wife. We started dating. We bought a house to remodel, which was like 6 blocks further away, like down Prospect. Yep.
Yes.
And then remodeled that, ended up realizing we bought a house in an absolutely terrible neighborhood. It's like gunshots outside our house every night.
We used to live over there.
Yeah, and I was like, we got to get out of here. So then we bought a house in Marquette Heights and then lived there till we moved to Nashville.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Dunlap High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we moved every year.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, it was my mom had me very young, and we lived in a bunch of different places when I was very young.
I got some stories about your mom too when we're done with this part of it.
Oh yeah.
It's just such a small world.
So yeah, early that I can remember was like East Peoria, Washington area. Sunnyland. Remember that place?
Yep.
Very, very humble beginnings. Like,
Same.
super duper humble.
Yep.
And it's hilarious doing like the online stuff, because somebody who I was doing a consultation with told me this story, that they were at a Guitar Center in like Portland, and they were buying some stuff at a Guitar Center, and they were like, hey, have you watched Andrew Masters? And they're like, yeah, he's some trust fund baby, blah, blah, blah,
Man,
blah. And
I get
I'm
that
like,
so much.
I'm like, whoa, that's so crazy. That couldn't be any further from the truth.
Dude, when I was growing up, this is no joke. I remember one year my mom telling me, I was like 14. I remember her telling me that we as a family made $13,000 that year.
Wow.
For a family of 4.
Yeah.
And it was a situation where like Taco Bell once a month or once every other month, like that was the treat.
Yeah.
Like when you were celebrating or something, like it was like you went to Taco Bell and got a couple 69-cent tacos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it cracks. And then when I moved out of home, my mom passed away when I was 18, and real shortly after I moved out, and I took my stereo that was in my bedroom, 2 speakers and a receiver and a CD player, my 2 guitars, however many guitars I had, 1 or 2, and a suitcase of clothes. That's it. And no family member ever helped me buy a single piece of gear. Like there was, you know what I mean? And so when you see those comments, I don't even take it that personally, because I would probably think the same thing if I looked at someone like myself. No, people don't realize that's 21 years of spending every dime.
Yeah.
Until the YouTube thing really blew up, because obviously we do get sent gear for YouTube, but like the vast majority of gear in my studio I paid for. Yeah. Like the vast majority. And I paid for by like skipping meals. I'm not going to eat dinner for 3 weeks in a row so I can buy this compressor. You know what I mean? Like just real,
I don't know
like
what that's like. I need dinner.
Really hard sacrifice. Like my rent's due, but I don't care. I'm going to do this instead because this is going to help me make better music. I don't advocate that to anyone. That's a terrible financial piece of advice.
Don't do that. Start a YouTube channel.
Yeah. But that's where the gear came from. And so then you see these people that, and also time, like 21 years is a long time. Like people don't realize that if
I'm 21 right now, it's my whole life.
People don't realize that when you start multiplying stuff over time, like when you used to look at like our grandparents and you're like, oh, they're so well off. How did they? Well, first of all, times were probably easier, but also they've just spent 40 years buying stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and after 40 years of acquiring stuff and paying off cars and paying off a house and like you get somewhere. And so sometimes it just takes a long time. And if you just invest every single dime, if you're passionate about this and you feel like it's the right thing, if you invest every single dime you have for 20 years, then your studio looks like this.
Yes. Or again, start a YouTube channel. I didn't acquire gear like that. I mean, this is where our paths are different. Yeah. Because you sort of built yours on your own slowly over time.
Actually, I really wanted to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Because yes, like mine was very much like we didn't have the money to go to, I was in a band, we didn't have the money to go to a studio. I put some gear, some recording equipment on a tab at Flores Music where I worked, and I did our record, and the first song I ever did got played on 105.7.
The X Rocks.
Matt Bahan. And then like I had 3 other bands that year ask me to do their record, and a few bands the next year, and like it just kind of been massive ups and downs business wise and financially over the past 21 years. But that is the trajectory of my career. But you went to school and then got a job at like a big studio and worked on huge records, right?
Yes.
What was that like in terms of like getting those opportunities? And is there any things that like what are the pros and cons of those two approaches to a music career, do you think?
Well, I can only speak for what I've experienced, but it was very much, I had the option of staying in Peoria, and
which, let's be honest,
it's
not a great option.
Well, I had a good job opportunity to be an electrician.
Oh, yeah.
For Overlander Electric.
Got it.
My stepdad at the time, that was their family company, and he was very much like, if you come and work for us, you'll be able to buy the house we just built in 2 years.
Wow.
And at that time, we did a trip to California, and it was literally the first time I'd ever not seen flat ground.
For those of you that are listening that don't know, Illinois is flat as an ice skating rink.
That's it. That's all there is.
It's cornfields. Super flat cornfields, roads as straight as far as you can see.
And for hours.
It's like 10 hours from tip to tip of Illinois.
And
I said tip to tip. Sorry.
So yeah, there was like that option, but then when I went to California and I saw there was a recording school there, and I saw like it was beautiful. I mean, California's insanely beautiful, and so that had like as a teenager, I was like very heavily influenced by that, and I was also not a good student in
like
school.
In high school.
In school, yeah. Like I was a very much below average student, consistently below average, but just enough to not like. I could.
You're not failing.
I'm not failing, but I'm not trying.
It's a solid C-.
I never tried, ever. Because I just didn't care. Nothing was interesting to me. I would do whatever I knew that I absolutely had to do just to be able to
pass the test,
move on and get out of there. But I don't think I applied to any colleges. Like in junior year, everyone else was applying. I'm like, when do we do that?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And, but I worked my sophomore year of high school. I started working a job that was, to my stepdad's credit, he was like, first day of summer, I already had a car. Like I saved up and bought a 91 Beretta.
Yes.
Chevy Beretta, baby blue.
Yes.
Only one of the doors opened. And, but I had a car and I was a skateboarder and I played drums and stuff. So I was like, throw the drums in. Let's go to the Becker skate park.
Yeah.
And day one of summer, I was like, let's go. We're going to skate all day, every day. And then my stepdad was like, nope, you're coming to work. And I was like, what? It's summer, though, and I got a car. He goes, perfect. You can drive.
You can drive to work.
Yeah. So, and that was like in the construction world. So it was cold. It was hot. It was all the things that Illinois is outside. There were even days where he'd bring me to the job site and hand me a shovel, and the job was to dig a trench with a shovel in your hands.
Yep.
And so I learned very quickly that I liked working indoors. I was like, I think I like to be. See, this room's air conditioning. This is way better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that, and then at one of the jobs, I also worked at Reflections Tannery. Shout out to Reflections. Wow. And was slinging tanning oil to all of the.
You were lathering up hot babes.
To all of the wonderful customers there, and
wait, male and female,
and everyone. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. And I saw an ad online. It was like the MySpace days.
Oh yeah.
For a recording school, and it was like all these kids in front of a console in this room, and this, I
Real
learned
studio.
I learned later that school is like just the biggest, like most genius business, where they have like a film school, and the film school you learn all the stuff, but then your projects are to make all the marketing material for the school. So they're shooting content of the engineers, they're shooting contents of the singers, of like all of the different studios, and then the engineers are like, cool, I get to be on the videos, and then I see it and I go, oh my god, I need to go there. So yeah, I decided after high school I did a year of just working. I had 3 jobs: Overlander, Reflections, and Chili's as a busboy.
Yeah, Chili's was the jam back in the day.
Yeah, especially when you're 19 and
I got my baby back.
not sponsored.
Ribs.
and you know, tips plus, like, you know, I was doing multiple jobs per day. And so we did that, and then I moved to California at 19, and I didn't know anyone there. I didn't have any family in California. Or in Southern California. I didn't know anyone, so I was by myself. It was also the first time I ever moved out.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone I knew was in Illinois, which is on the whole other side of the country.
Yeah.
And
not drivable from one to the other.
Yeah, there's just that's it. You're on your and you know, for the school it was like find an apartment and we'll connect you with a roommate. So you're you're moving
you don't even
in,
know who you're living with.
Moving in with a stranger.
Yeah. And
we picked a studio apartment.
Oh.
That was one room. Me and someone else. It was a dorm, basically.
Yeah.
So there was that part of it, but like the second that I went to the school, it was like, I care about this. And this is the first time I've ever cared about school.
Yeah.
Because it was, here's a mini SSL.
Yep.
Here's the live room. Here's the microphones. We're going to go into this. But you start in the rooms day one.
Well,
so it
awesome.
was like outboard gear. We're going to talk about outboard gear today.
Yep.
Practical record, signal flow. Like, here's a diagram of an SSL strip, and we're going to talk about signal flow, and we're going to learn it from the perspective of an SSL channel strip.
That's awesome.
And I loved every second of it because I already was obsessed with recording, and I had been recording, you know, my friends' bands and stuff, and I just wanted to get Nickelback drum sounds so badly. And
pause for a second.
Yeah.
Which Nickelback album has the best drum sounds?
Oh, come on, All the Right Reasons.
It was pretty iconic.
Well, I don't know. I don't know their other ones, but that was the record where I was like, when that first song started,
first song opens.
Yeah. I was like, what is that?
Yep.
What is happening there?
And what's funny is that snare drum is so cangy and ringy, but sounds so good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, you know, and then I'd record my SJC kit up in my mom's bonus room with carpet and my 8 mics and my Alesis into Logic. And I was like, why is it? It's like,
why doesn't it sound like that?
Yeah, and in my brain, I was like, it's the engineering that's going to help me get the sound.
Well, I mean, you're not incorrect. It's all of it, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah, it is important for sure to not screwing up the sound.
Yeah,
but
also that's like the pinnacle, especially at the time.
Oh yeah,
the pinnacle of what a hard rock drum sound could be. So you're talking about the best drummer in the best room on the best drums with the best mixer with the best mastering engineer. Like,
well, so went to school, graduated 6 months later. I did 2 quarters. So it's a trade school, so short program. You could do like the engineering part, which was 6 months, and then you could do post-production, which is like for which is this stuff,
like
right?
Mixing
for
and
video.
Mastering?
No, for video.
Got it.
Like post to work on film sets.
Got it.
And then there was live sound. So those were like additional quarters. I was like, I don't care about any of that. I want to be in a studio making records. That's all I need to know. No thanks to the live sound. And then I got a job. I interned during school for these super cool dudes. One of who I'm still good friends with just moved here. I just had him in my last Princeton video, Frank.
Oh, nice.
And so by the time I finished school, I could apply for a job and not have to do intern hours. And I applied in the second quarter, interviewed with Candace at EastWest. There was only 2 people that got back to me. I spammed like 50 studios. And one was a post-production house, and the second one was EastWest.
Yeah.
And it was like the only place that I wanted to get the job at. And Candace was super cool. And she said a bunch of things that I still repeat today. One, which is, I like you. Here's what's to expect. You're going to be doing runs. You're going to be cleaning the studio.
Yeah.
You're going to be stocking the rooms.
Yep.
You're going to be going through checklists. You're going to be moving cars.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be doing errands, getting people's coffee.
Yep.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And she was like, here's the thinking. I need to know that I can trust you with ordering somebody's coffee.
Yep.
And not screwing that up.
Yep.
And if you can show that you can go and get a coffee and not screw that up, especially when there's like 12 people,
yep,
then maybe I can trust you to go get a U47 and set that up. But we're going to start with coffee.
But what's funny about that is it's shocking how many people aren't really capable of that attention to detail.
Yeah.
Screwing coffee up.
It's a fantastic filter.
It is a fantastic filter, 100%.
Doing that work, which many people immediately go, what? I just finished school.
Right.
I'm an engineer.
Exactly.
I got a certificate,
Yep.
bro.
I know how to run Pro Tools. You want me to get coffee with creamer?
I'm Pro Tools certified.
Right.
You want me to clean a toilet?
Yes.
That is below me.
Yes.
It's like, okay.
Then
Good
it's
luck
not for you.
Good luck.
Yep.
That's what we're looking for.
Yep.
And I was just like, I'll do anything to work in this building.
Yep.
And I'll do it all with a smile on my face. And I'll show up early. I'll stay late. I don't care. This is all I care about.
Yep.
And she was like, do you have a car? And I said, I have a bike. Because I was biking everywhere.
Bicycle?
Yeah, bicycle.
Yeah.
And she's like, I need you to get a car. And I was like, okay. She's like, if you get a car, I'll hire you. She said, you got 2 weeks to get a car. I'll call you in 2 weeks, and if you have a car, you can start working.
That's amazing.
And I somehow hustled a deal with a foreign exchange student who was just there. He was from Taiwan, John Woo, and he had this little beater Corolla, and he hooked it up, dude. He sold it to me for like less than $2,000.
Yep.
And he was older than me, so he's much smarter. And he was like, listen, I'll sell it to you for this much. He goes, but when I transfer the title to you, or the deed of sale or whatever, I'm going to just say that I sold it to you for $500 so that you don't have to pay that much taxes on it.
Yeah, buddy.
And I was like, woo.
Cha-ching.
Just kidding, IRS. And
that never happened. Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. So yeah, I got the car, got the job. I started there the day after school, and yeah, it was amazing. Even though the beginning was cleaning up, and the EastWest was a totally different culture when I started. It was like people were walking on eggshells. There was a crazy dude who was the head guy there, and he was like a super big ego, temper tantrum dude. Slamming doors, yelling at people.
That's unfortunate.
And he got fired. 6 months in, I remember the day. It was like everyone was like, "Well, what's gonna happen now?"
Yeah,
Gary's gone, and because dude, everyone was scared of Gary. And then this new guy, Fred, came in, and because Gary also he thought everyone was like just trying to get a job to be able to get free studio time, which of course, dude.
Right.
And so he would try to fire people if he found out they were in a band, No
way.
Yeah, he was crazy. And so I didn't tell anyone that I even played any instruments for like 10 months.
Yeah.
And Fred came in and found all these problems in all the rooms.
Yep.
And I was in Studio 3 and he's working on the Trident. He was like looking at the patch, he's like, what is this labeling? I was like, I've never been in here. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, Gary didn't let any of the runners in the rooms, unless we were like bringing in food or like Swiffering or something.
Right.
And he was like, use the rooms. What are you doing? Use the rooms.
Also, we should clarify for those that don't know, those rooms stay on 24/7.
Yes.
They are on and running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
So someone better be getting some value out of it.
Yeah.
Or paying to be in there.
Well, also, so he was like, there's going to be issues in these rooms every day. If there's an issue, I want you to be the one to find out. And then you tell me so I can fix it.
Totally.
So it's not a paying client
who finds a problem.
Be like, oh, the 1176 doesn't work? Oh, great. That's like one of the main things we wanted to use today.
Yeah. Channel 24 on the Trident is
Dude,
fuzzy.
15 of the channels on the Trident, In the beginning, it was real rough. That first tech was not attending to any of the problems. So
that's a bummer.
Now it's in amazing shape.
Yeah.
But that culture shifted as soon as that tech came in and told us to use the rooms. And it was from that moment on, I never left that studio for 5 years. I was like, I'm clocking off. You can find me in Studio 2.
And you worked on some pretty huge records while you were there.
Yeah, I mean, EastWest has EastWest was built and funded by Sinatra and Bing Crosby in the 60s.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was Western Recorders, and next door was United Recorders, so it was United Western. They were together.
Got it.
And United was letters, and Western was numbers. So it was United had A, B, and C, and then Western was studios 1 through 4.
Got it.
And then it became Ocean Way. Alan Sides bought both buildings, and they were both Ocean Way. And it was the same thing, letters, numbers. And then it became Cello in the 90s.
Okay.
And that's where like Tool, Guns N' Roses, like huge pivotal rock,
stuff.
Incubus.
Yeah.
Like all those records were made, Audio Slave, cut and mixed there.
Wow.
And System of a Down. Yeah, like all that stuff from that era was tracked in Studio 2 and Studio 3. The whole System of a Down Toxicity record was cut in, I believe, in Studio 3. I may be mixing it up because I saw some footage of them in 2, so maybe they did 2 and 3.
Crazy history.
I grew up on so much of that music, but it started, with Sinatra, and like then there was the Mamas, the Papas, and like Pet Sounds, like all that stuff was done in the same rooms. So yeah, there's a long history of super impactful records being made there. And there still was. I mean, my first day was the Red Hot Chili Peppers' last day in Studio 2. They were in Studio 2 for 6 months with Rick Rubin. And they have done like every record of theirs there for the last 10 records or something. Ryan Hewitt mixed them there in Studio 5. So it was, I was very fortunate to, in the beginning, as a runner, to just be like, oh my God, dude, Metallica's in Studio 2.
Right.
And Studio 3.
So how long were you a runner before you became an engineer or an assistant?
So in my first 6 months, they promoted me because I took some initiative and created a label and checkout system for all the microphones. Because there was chaos in the first 6 months. I was like, you go up to find mics in a hurry. There's no situation where you have a bunch of time to go get mics. It's like, get them now.
Right.
And there was there's just shelves of cases, and like the cases, U67, it'd be like C12. And it's like, okay, why are none of them are together? So I created a label system where it was all manufacturer alphabetically organized, and there was a label. So you knew you got 67 number 4 goes Neumann, 67 number 4, boom, goes right there. And you could kind of learn like, oh, okay, the 67s are here.
Yeah.
And, just made that whole thing go faster, which made my job easier, but also made everyone's jobs easier.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, great. You're now the head runner. And I was like, okay, what's that mean? They're like, just do that, but and have all the other runners like tell them what to do. And I was the youngest one.
That's
like
awesome.
All the other runners were like upper 20s and 30s. And I was 20. None of them were listening to me, dude. And I was such a different person then, because I was like insecure. I was basically still a teenager. I had no experience of like leadership or anything like that. And so anyway, I don't remember exactly. It was a slow, like what they do is Candace will start giving you some, hey, you're going to assist on this vocal session in 3. Yeah. It would be like slow stuff like that.
So like, was it like 6 months or a year or like?
I to be totally honest, I don't remember when it started. Yeah, because it was
transition.
It was a transition. I want to say somewhere in the 1.5, 2 years was like when I was doing just assisting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was once the staff had turned around a couple times, like the runners, because people don't last that long. Yeah, they and then assistants get picked up and get gigs, and then when an assistant leaves, everyone moves up a step.
Yep.
And so that was really cool, that transition of going from running, because also like doing the running thing, I knew everything there was to know about the job of what should be done, what needed to be done, the best ways of doing it, also how you could kind of slack off and do it, like the prioritization of it all. And then as an assistant, I knew what like the assistants would have me do as a runner. I go, oh, great. So now I'm an assistant. I'll get the setup from the engineer, coordinate with them. I already know the mics. I already know the input. I know how we're laying things out. I call the runner and I go, hey, you and the other runners, meet me in Studio 2. We're setting up for tomorrow. We're doing Weezer to tape.
Right.
Okay. And it's important.
An important session.
Yeah. We're going to get this all set up and we're going to test everything. It's going to be live, ready to go. But as an assistant, I'm in the control room.
Right.
I'm patching. I'm labeling the console. I'm setting up all the channels. I'm hooking up the tape machine. The runners are out there setting up the mics, running lines, setting up all the stations. All the headphone boxes and stuff like that. Which was really nice to be able to delegate. Because there wasn't any delegating as a runner. It was you're
the grunt.
Do it now. Do it yesterday. So my whole upbringing in the engineering side was on the job doing that, like, culture of, like, in the beginning, it's like, dude, just shut up. Do it.
Studio etiquette.
Do it fast. Like, don't complain. Nobody cares. Like, everyone here who's above you had to do it too. There's no pity party. In fact, if you are, like, pitying yourself, then no one wants to be around you. No one wants you in the room. So you got to know, like, how to be in the room, how to be excited, how to be better, faster, and
stay out of the way.
Stay out of the way, but like be good. Like, just be super good at what you know needs to happen, and then go the extra mile. And hang out. Oh, the setup's done. Cool. Go just stay with the assistant and see if there's anything that he needs. Or ask them, like, hey, can I ask, like, about how you're setting up your template? And they're stoked. They're like, yeah, check it out. I would love if you knew how to run my template. Because then now you could have you run tools while I go pee.
Exactly.
Or whatever. And then I would learn a little bit more from the assistant about, like, okay, so when you're tracking a 60-piece orchestra and you're doing 25 cues, you've got all these groups, you've got a Windows configuration, and you've got it so that jumping between sections, you can just hit Shift R, tab down, Shift R, 3. You know, it's like, I was like, oh my, I learned so much from the dudes who've been doing it much longer than I. And then obviously you learn every day on the job because it's never enough. You know, and you can be totally prepared. And then Vinny Caliuta sits down at the drums and you're running tools and you hit record and you forgot to hit 7 first and turn the click on. And Vinny Caliuta, like, one of the most legendary session drummers, who's very loud, Italian dude, is like, I don't have any click. The click's not on. Hey, you can give me the click. You know, like, because they're all pros. Like, almost every session was, like, the most elite session guys. Or a big act, you know, a big artist, and they'll have big players or whatever. But there's nearly never any low stress, low, like, oh, this is just a chill thing, you know?
So what would you say is the biggest pro to that career path, and what's the biggest con to that career path?
I think the biggest pro, in my opinion, is I walked away from there with the confidence that I could put myself in any recording, mixing, session situation, and I would know what to do. It would just be a matter of, okay, where are the drums going? Where is this? What are the headphones?
Where do you guys keep the microphones?
Where do the inputs? It was just the logistical side of taking the system of what I knew and then transferring it to a different space and different, like, okay, how do I get, like, I'm always still going to use the same Pro Tools template, you know, or concept. And I know, like, that's the safeguard, like, because that's what we're all playing back. That's what is feeding your cues, that, you know, and also there was just so many years of, like, renting gear, swapping gear. EastWest is stacked to the 9 with all vintage. Every room is a Fairchild. Every room has 3-4 Yuri 1176s, LA2s, LA3s, every version of a DBX, anything. Old red channels, like old rare stuff, different weird converters. 4 different types of tape machines and like the different, like you do the tape and then you put like the Sony hi-fi whatever thing before the tape. Like I had just done so many different versions of things that when I left, it was like, I had done it enough years where I knew that Candace could book me as an assistant or as a first engineer on anything. Yeah. And she knew like, oh, I'll have Andy do it. You'll be fine. He can handle it. Right. And then the other side, technically, or outside of the technical stuff, is personality stuff.
How so?
Being in the room with crazy people.
Oh yeah, totally. So, what's the biggest con, do you think, of that path?
I would say a lack of business experience.
You're just in the trenches.
Because it's all just working. Like I had no concept of
like big picture
an
project
LLC,
management. Got it.
Of running a business outside. Like I knew the day to day, but I didn't know like accounting. I didn't know like.
Did you have any concept of like what the big picture overseeing like full album projects looks like?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to see all that stuff too.
Oh yeah. Because we did a lot of
all the pre-production
from start,
producers managing budgets, all that stuff.
Well, the producers don't typically talk with the assistants about managing the budgets. So that's more of like the business side that I didn't get.
Okay.
But yeah, it was very much like I felt and still do, maybe ignorantly, feel like I could be good as an engineer on anything. Like I would be able to do the job successfully to where the producer would be happy, the artist would be happy, the players, everyone on staff. Like I know how to manage sessions, but the real wisdom is like learning from producers. When you work with a great producer, and they like you, that was like a huge learning. So, like the full album cycle thing, one of my favorite experiences was with, we did a record for John Legend and Blake Mills produced it. And, I was there day one as the assistant on the setup, but it was one of those records where there's a week booked just for setup.
Wow.
And Blake had like trucks of gear dropped off, like several of his pianos brought. There's already grand pianos in the studio,
I'm gonna bring mine though.
Yeah. Let's get it. And not only he brought his, but it was like let's also rent another like different type of upright. So it was like 3 different types of uprights, a grand and another kind of grand, and that that's just for piano. We also did full everything, so it was like getting to experience, and that record making experience was so fascinating to watch because John Legend was rarely ever there. So the pre-production was very much without the artist.
Interesting.
From what I understand, the songs were already decided. Yeah. They're all submitted from like
demos,
Greg
and work
Kirsten,
tapes.
like the greatest writers
right.
ever. He gets a catalog from his manager or whatever, and they sort of go through and develop the album. But, these are all demos. And then he hires Blake to bring Blake's flavor to the record.
Got it.
And I think John's wife was pregnant at the time, which perhaps is why he wasn't there very much. But like these players who were in there were like top dog dudes. And it's like Blake as a producer, he's like experimenting with Pino Palladino on the clock and Chris Dave on the clock. And I forgive me for not getting this last name right. Larry Goldings, I think is his name. Like the craziest keyboard, piano, organ dude I've ever witnessed. Just, when somebody gets on a B3 and knows every centimeter of adjustment of every slider. And as they're playing, it's just, it looks like if you have room mics.
It's alive.
If you have room mics, you're hearing them assault the organ. But what's coming out of that, Leslie, is like, oh my God.
Yep.
I didn't know that instrument did that.
Yep.
So every day was just like musically doing a lot of pre-production and like him seeing through ideas. Also, all top A players, everyone, Sean, Everett, engineering, all big, huge, successful people. Every person in there was the nicest, friendliest, easygoing, like down-to-earth person ever. So,
which seems like the norm because you don't get asked back if you're not that.
Yeah.
With few exceptions. There's obviously exceptions.
Yeah, sometimes there's crazy people who are very successful, but
well, we're all a little bit crazy.
No. I'm talking about people who live in another dimension.
Having psychotic breaks in the control room.
Throwing their ice cream on the ground, shouting at everyone, like, crazy stuff. Pulling knives out. I've seen some wild stuff. But that was like a really cool thing where we watched it come to life from nothing. And Blake is just such a creative dude sonically where he's like, let's put acoustic pickups. So let's stick them to the bottom of the cymbal and have the wire running into a booth plugged into a champ, and then mic the champ with the 67 and turn the spring reverb. So then we hit the cymbal. It's going to a guitar amp in the booth with the reverb to a 67. Like just the craziest stuff. And he would be the first one there. It would be me, and then Blake would show up, and we'd hang and order breakfast. It was awesome. Big budgets are great. And then we'd do 15 hours, and then everyone would leave, and Blake would stay. Yeah. And he'd just hang out and walk around the live room and have almost like this meditative, like just time in the room of like touching stuff, like hitting things, like making noise. And sometimes he would be like, hey, Andrew, could you just write this down? Just this, when I hit this thing with this, it has like kind of a cool sound. Remind me of this tomorrow. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's super
cool.
We
took off the drum kit and put up like a road case as a bass drum, and then mic'd up with like 4 mics and ran it through an EMI, like just the dumbest, craziest stuff that was so experimental and cool. And seeing how he would take, just the approach for production, like the production of the record was amazing. And that was one of the last sessions, like one of the 5 last sessions I did. And that was months. We worked on that for months. Yeah. And that was right. I had proposed to my wife and we were planning on moving to Vegas. So I was like, I think we had moved, and I was just staying in an empty apartment pretty much doing that session in LA. And so it was like a transitional time for me leaving. And when I went to Vegas, I realized I had nothing. I would have been 100% dependent on this facility and everything that comes with it, which was a big part of why I left. Was I had this deep fear of, sure, people love working with me now. Yeah. Because I have EastWest. Yeah. What happens when I leave EastWest? Are people going to be running to do sessions with me? Yep. When I don't have EastWest? Yep. I feel like maybe no. I feel like they go, oh, Andy can get Studio 2. Let's do a record with him. You know? Right. So, when I went to Vegas and I started in a bedroom again, it was massively humbling, but I felt armed and equipped with like, that's okay.
You knew how to get through
I'll get an 8-channel Focusrite. Yeah. We'll get some mics, get some stands. Yep. I know what to do with it. And that's when I started the journey of like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of opportunity here to bring value to people who are in this situation,
Right.
but don't have any of that experience.
Right.
Like, I need to figure out how I can start a business or start something where I can share all of that stuff, but like with a D112 and 2 SM81s and a 57.
Right.
You know, and that's when the 1.0 version of my channel started, which was actually a blog called recordingideas.com.
Nice.
And I was trying to do the recording revolution thing.
Yep.
Where it was like, get people to the site.
Yep.
Get an email list, get the courses going. Funny enough, full circle.
Now we're full circle with that idea.
Now I'm so full circle with it. But yeah.
But that's very interesting that my career path is so much the opposite of that in every way. Like starting in the bedroom sort of thing. And then like doing just good enough work to get hired by the studio that we couldn't afford to go to record our albums. And then like end up running that studio and then end up leaving to build my own place and all that stuff. But there was never like the responsibility for sourcing work was always on me.
Yeah.
My whole career.
Yeah.
No one ever fed me projects ever. It was just like, who could you convince to hire you? Who could you convince to come make a record with you?
Oh, yeah.
And it's weird how opposite those paths are, because while I have worked on far fewer big records than you, it's weird that it's like, but I was the one that made it happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
totally
totally different.
You're kind of more the producer and the A&R and the engineer.
Yes.
And you're wearing a lot more hats.
But you're also risking, I mean, my room now is the 4th room that I've built.
Yeah.
One of the others was a giant commercial facility right downtown Peoria, where I got in a crazy amount of debt to build that place, like took out loans and stuff.
I want to do that.
It's weird how it was like all the responsibility to source the clients, all the financial responsibility, like you got
stressful.
You got to show up and you got to do all those things, the friendly, innovative, creative things in the room, but also then you leave and how am I going to pay rent, or how am I going to pay my loan payment this month, or like, you know, just that kind of stress. So it's very interesting, and the main reason why I was asking you that is sometimes I wonder if that path, your path, would have been the better path to like go to school, get a job at a big studio, work on a bunch of big records, try to leave and continue to work on big records, instead of like my path has just been like trying to beat my career into submission with a sledgehammer for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate for where I am. Like nearly all my clients currently are like full-time artists touring. You know, I've had stuff on Billboard. Like I feel very fortunate to have done some big stuff. But how much bigger might it have been if I had built those connections by working on the Weezer album?
Yeah, if they give you credit, Jake.
And that's the whole other thing. Dude, if you Google, I don't know what your credits look like online, but if you Google Colt Capperrune credits, there's like nothing there.
Yeah.
Because getting people to submit formal credit is like infuriating.
Yeah, I'm kidding, Jake. I don't know if actually that was his fault or who it wound up being. You know, sometimes it's crazy. Like I was looking up credits for Lizzie McAlpine's record.
Okay.
And you know what the credits are? Lizzie McAlpine.
That's amazing. Oh, she did the whole thing herself.
There's nothing. Yeah. That's it. I'm like, how?
That has to be the most frustrating part of our job as engineers, producers, mixers.
It's what makes, and you know, that's it. It makes you, but if you don't have it, then.
Which is also why I got into using Instagram and Facebook to build my career, because it's like IMBD or all credits or Discogs or whatever. There's almost nothing up there for me, or maybe nothing on a couple of them. And so it just became like, I'm just going to constantly show off what I'm doing. Just like, hey, I'm working with this artist. Here's a selfie. Or like, you know, here's a song that I produced that just got released. Or like, I just relentlessly sharing that stuff, because how else would anyone know? Yeah. From a DIY career perspective, no one's going to know. And you have to get them to know, because you're still trying to convince them to hire you. because there's not labels saying, hey, go to Blackbird or EastWest, or, there's not producers taking projects to work with me. It's like, no, I'm responsible for sourcing every bit of work that I have. And so if I'm not putting the work out there that I'm doing, then nobody knows I exist or that I'm actually doing good work. Such a wild difference.
So here's the devil's advocate
Okay.
or the cons of the path that I took. And I can, I'll use some friends of mine as examples, and they'll love this.
Yeah, I should talk about the pros of my path at some point as well, because there's many.
I think I think there's pros to both, but the cons of the path that I took and a lot of the people I worked with took is all of that responsibility was somebody else's job.
Yeah.
Literally, it was their job. So like we never had to do that.
Yeah.
Which then means when you leave,
you're learning it all.
No one's doing that job anymore, and you're like, wait, how do I find
totally?
And
how do I source clients?
I mean, in people in the music industry, maybe more now than ever, but over the last several years and definitely before then, never wanted to post something.
It felt sleazy, right?
People were just so adverse to the idea of, hey, I'm at the studio doing this thing.
Yep.
And now it's much more common and accepted.
But even in those worlds, like you don't see all the kids that work at Blackbird posting nonstop about it. You go to their Instagram and they work there.
Yeah.
But that's not their brand, or they're not like posting that every day.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah, the pros of my path are, one, I've been in complete control, for better and for worse, of my career. I've been able to make decisions like, I'm going to build this studio, and securing financing is the only, not that that's not a small hurdle to jump, but like that's the only hurdle. Or like,
it's the first.
Yeah. Or like I, now 21 years in, I refuse to work 15-hour days. You can't afford me for a 15-hour day.
Yeah.
Which is not the norm in the music industry. Like those huge producers that you worked with, they're still working 15 to 18-hour days. And I'm like, no, I'm just not gonna. And I have the ability to decide that and to just not do it. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pros. Also, I get to take credit for whether it's on Discogs or not. I get to take credit for the music that gets released.
Yeah.
Massive pros and cons to both. And when I first moved to Nashville, funny enough, I thought that I was going to go to the Blackbird Academy.
That's right. Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Because my thought was, like, I was 13 years into my career, and I had definitely like hit the ceiling of what Illinois could do for me. And so I'm like, oh, let's go to a bigger city. And there were some other circumstances surrounding that, like losing my studio, getting kicked out for redevelopment into condos and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that maybe I need to take 10 steps backwards, go to like Blackbird Academy, get a job at Blackbird, and like transition into the path that you took.
Yeah.
And then I got here. I thought that was maybe the only way I would ever really reach the top. And who knows? I haven't reached the top yet. So maybe that is the only way you actually reach the top.
Right. The top.
To become one of those household name mixers or whatever, And so I toured Blackbird before we even moved, and like talked to, I can't remember her name, the lady that runs the onboarding at the academy. Anyway, and it was like $25,000.
Yeah.
And that was only a 6-month program.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, what could I do with, what's the best use of $25,000?
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought that if I just moved here and got to know as many people as possible, and I didn't really have a ton of cash in the bank, but like if I didn't go 25 grand in debt and I just met as many people as possible and like tried to convince people to work with me, because also I had, I don't know, 1,000 songs to show for myself when I showed up here. I had all the gear and like tons of work to show people. So it wasn't like I was starting from zero. And I couldn't convince myself to pay 25 grand to a place that probably wasn't going to teach me anything technical, that it would be solely just to be in the room with people and try to make the connections.
Yeah.
It seemed like an extraordinary amount of money just to meet people.
Yeah, the school is a funny thing because I think there is a lot of value for the person who hasn't had the 20 years or whatever.
100%.
And you're just looking to jump right into
100%.
Let me get all that in 6 months.
As a matter of fact, a program like you went through or like Blackbird or somewhere like that, I think is probably the best thing if you don't have any background or knowledge in it.
Yeah. Nothing is going to teach you better than on-the-job experience on a session, but being prepared to have some basic fundamental understanding of things. Also, schools will generally teach you a lot of they'll put you on the cautious side of things, like I remember some things being like, never ever put a ribbon mic on a drum. Ever. Don't even get it close to a drum.
Never compress more than 4 dB on a vocal.
Yeah, like they teach you how to be super safe with things. And then you get in a room. I remember my friend, I didn't experience this personally, but my friend who did go to Blackbird, it was the first graduating class actually, Michael, and he was like, you ever put a 44 on a kick drum? And I was like, no. What? That's crazy.
How dare you?
Yeah, 44. Like, we have the originals. Don't do that.
Well, you're going to blow those up.
And he goes, let's do it. And he like pushed it right up to the front of it. And I was like, you're crazy. And we turned it up on the Neve, and I was like,
it sounds so good.
Like the ATCs in the room were just rocking. I was like, oh.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, that was John. That's like his go-to, the Beta 91 inside and then the 44 on the outside. And it just boom.
Yep. Sure.
And all of the good, like the really good, cool sounds are all breaking the rules,
Pushing boundaries to the absolute limit.
And you're not taught that in school because you're taught how to be safe and not break expensive things.
That aren't yours.
Yeah. Which is a good start.
Yes, it is.
You should be scared when you start.
You should not want to break 44s at EastWest your third week there.
No.
That would be another pro of my path would be like, I paid for everything coming up.
Yeah.
I was willing to just break everything.
Yeah.
And I've always had that attitude, like even playing gigs, I'd leave 5 PRSs in the back of my truck all night long after a gig in the middle of winter when it's 20 below zero. Like, just don't care. Because to me, it's a hammer.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's not a special thing that needs to be respected. No, this PRS is a hammer, and I'm going to beat on it to get my job done. And if I can't beat on it, if it won't hold up to it, then I'm going to throw it in the trash and get something that will hold up to me beating on it. And that's how I've always looked at every piece of gear I've ever owned.
Yeah, PRS.
They're just tools. Yeah, but literally anything, If I can't just pound on something, if it won't hold up to it, then what are we doing here?
Yeah, man. Big con for me when I left was I didn't have any of that developmental experience of like getting. Funny story though, when I did move to Vegas, since I wasn't working in a studio, and I spent like the first 6 months trying to build a website, and all the money I had saved, which was very little, I spent on doing that because I did everything wrong. So I wound up getting a side job at Guitar Center, teaching recording, and then I got another job doing door-to-door sales, selling alarm systems for houses and the doorbell cameras, and that job taught me how to sell.
They say that those jobs teach you so much.
They taught me about how to talk to people, no matter what you walking up to a stranger's house, knocking on their door. If you're equipped to talk to somebody on their property at their front door.
When they probably don't want to be talking to you.
In Vegas. Yeah. Like 30% of the people answered the door with guns in their hand.
Amazing.
And you gotta flip that into making them laugh and inviting you in.
Yeah.
And that experience taught me so much and gave me so much confidence. The second that you land a sale after 35 minutes of meeting someone and they sign up to have a whole system installed, they sign a 5-year contract after 30 minutes of talking to you. That is a super duper high.
It was the same whenever I'd get a new album, that we always celebrated every time I landed a new full album project, because it was like there was a lot of negotiation and a lot of trust that had to be built in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
We're going to pay you thousands of dollars and spend months and months with you to do this thing. And yeah, super, super high.
So that helped me, and I desperately wish that I would have had that experience before EastWest. Because I again, like when I started there, I was a very nervous, insecure kid.
Yeah.
And I remember a shout out to Jeff Ellis, who was an assistant there, and he was like, he wasn't mean or rude, but if you sucked as a runner, he would tell you, hey, you suck at this. and if like in my case, I remember being in Studio 3 and he's talking to me, you know, we're setting up and he's asking me questions and stuff, and I'm being like, maybe I was, you know, in a bad mood for whatever, because being a runner sucks. And, and he was asking me stuff and I was kind of being quiet. You know, I have this thing where I get mad and I get quiet. And he was like, what? And I like said it louder. He's like, hey, you need to speak up. Like, we're in a studio, we're working. You need to speak so I could hear you.
That's amazing.
And it made me mad.
Yeah.
Initially, but I was like, he's right. I do talk like quietly.
Yeah.
Under my breath. Like I need to actually project.
Yeah.
And have some like stand up straight. You know, have some confidence.
Yep.
And I didn't have that when I started. I was very insecure and very like, I was good at my job, but I was like good at doing the job, and that was it.
Got it.
I didn't have that, like, I didn't know who I was or how to be. And that all, you know, I was a very different person when I worked there, but the door-to-door taught me how to talk to people and how to tell them super easy. Right here, 5 months, you plan on moving, or 5 years, you plan on moving in the next 60 months?
Yeah.
No, perfect, great. This is all guaranteed for 5 years. 5-year contract guaranteed, this and that. It's $70 a month. That's it. So right here, I just need social, account and routing, bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
I'm going to call the tech. He's right up the street.
Yep.
Get him come over and put this on tonight. You going to be here? Yeah, we're making dinner. Great. How to ask for money.
Yep.
And know that, like, just know the whole process.
Yep.
Like, nope, you're going to get exactly what I'm telling you.
Yep.
It's worth the money. It is a good deal.
Right.
But before, because I was always poor growing up, asking for a lot of money felt crazy to me.
Yep.
And felt like, oh man, this is too much.
Yeah.
Because it was too much for me to pay.
Yeah.
But it's like, no. They're paying for the 20 years you spent being able to deliver them everything you're going to deliver in 2 months.
Yep. That's interesting, because selling stuff at Flores Music, I'm blessed and cursed from birth of thinking that if someone can do something, I can also do it, because they're not smarter than me. And that has caused me a lot. It's been a huge blessing and caused me an enormous amount of grief in my life, because I've gotten myself in way too many situations, and I'm like, I had no business rewiring a house. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. Yeah. But so I was always had that like predisposition to approach everything in life that way. But selling stuff at the age of 18 at Flores, you know, the 47-year-old Caterpillar executive comes in, and you have to convince him to spend $4,000 on a Les Paul, and you got 10 minutes. He
didn't care it's $4,000.
Yeah, sure, but
he wants to know, is this the right guitar?
Same sort of thing though. Like cold. Even though they've walked into my store, definitely different than going up on someone's porch. Yeah. Same sort of thing. Like, I don't know you. I have to get you to trust me right now. Yeah. And then I have to figure out why you're here. What do you want? What are you interested in? And then how do I present an option that satisfies your need or solves your problem? Yeah. In the shortest amount of time. And when I was working there, that was the biggest music store between Chicago and St. Louis. And we were just me and Chris Camp were just like slinging gear, like
nice
10 Mesa Boogie half stacks a day. Woo! Like just slinging gear, like it was out of control. But it really taught me how to talk to people and how to sell.
So if you're an engineer and you haven't had any sales experience,
I
think about it as an investment in your future as an engineer or producer, musician, songwriter, whatever.
Yep.
Because I don't regret anything, but I do recognize that I got a lot of value from just being able to talk to someone.
Yep. That you've never met before.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And you get that working on sessions as an assistant. Thankfully, as an assistant, your job isn't to talk to everyone.
Right.
Your job is to make everyone else's job easier.
Right.
That's what an assistant's job is.
Yep.
And you also have to know everything.
Yep.
If you know everything and you can make everyone else's job easier, you're good.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk.
Right.
It does help to be able to be a part of the conversation.
Well, and as you keep going up in your career, whichever path you take, whether you're on your path or my path, that being able to sell people on stuff never goes away. Like even now, I still have to sell people on hiring me.
Yeah.
And even once I've sold them on that, maybe this is some inside baseball. Maybe the singer's standing right next to me and I'm producing that vocal and I would like them to sing it like this. In some sort of way, I have to sell them on my ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here's my vision for this song. Now I have to sell it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of never stops, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably better that I've been out of sales for a little bit because there's like, you get like into a mindset where like everything is a sale.
Yeah, for sure.
Every conversation is a sale.
Yep.
And there's also a game you're playing where you want to sell someone on something, even just because. Just because then when you're done, you're like, yeah.
I did that.
Yeah. Which is dangerous, but
you see that in like the real estate used car salesmen, like they're incapable of not selling.
Yeah, but massive amounts of value. Even to just like getting because 95% of selling is taking no from people. Mm-hmm. People saying no.
Yep.
And them giving
and
you
not letting it affect you.
You predicting excuses and then having planned responses to those predicted excuses.
Totally.
We had everything, and it's great because I get door-to-door guys who come here all the time. I love it. I go out there, I'm like, what you got, buddy? You know, I'm like, let's hear it. And it's always the same pitch, regardless of the company or the product. Yep. It's the same. Hey, you know your neighbor over here, Bob? Uh-huh. I'm like, yeah, Bob. It was Bill and Julie for us, but yeah, go ahead. And I'll mess with them. But it's fun. It's cool. And it's cool to like when it works and, you know, the main thing is obviously you gotta be able to back it up. You gotta be good at your job.
Yep.
Something about engineering is when I talk to younger guys or gals who are getting into recording and looking for advice or this and that is they're very focused on the technical side.
Right.
Which of course, but the technical side is assumed.
Yes.
Sure. Well, yeah, of course.
It's the bare minimum.
Of course you know how to do that.
Right.
You're an engineer.
Yep.
But I need you to talk the guitar player into using the aux box today.
Yeah. Right. Yep. There was I did this session. It was in Blackbird shortly after I moved to town. And it was with a bigger producer who had been nominated for a few Grammys, and like he hired me just as a Pro Tools guy. I was just there to run the session.
Yeah.
Set up microphones, run the session. I was the only engineer / assistant in the session. And it was for this artist, and we had this session guitar player in to play on the thing. On the album or EP, I don't remember which it was. It's like 8 years ago. And I was lucky enough, even though I had not come up like the way that you had come up, I was lucky enough to like know like the etiquette. I'm here to be the Pro Tools guy.
Yep.
My job is not to offer creative input.
Right.
My job is not to say we should tweak that guitar tone.
Right.
My job is to run Pro Tools and do whatever the producer asks me to do. And so I was doing that. And this producer and this guitar player were just at each other's throats. The whole, like it was one of those things where like on a personal level, they didn't mesh. No. And then on a musical level, they also didn't mesh.
Oh, no.
And it was really bad. And so we broke for lunch. This was second day or third day. Like, we had been doing guitar for like days. And we broke for lunch, and the guitar player leaves. And the producer goes, hey, while he's gone, can you play guitar? And I'm like, yeah, I can. I mean, yeah, sure. And he's like, can you just pick up that guitar and just like strum some chords or something? I just want to go tweak this amp while he's not here. And I'm like, okay. And I swear to God, not trying to be a showboat. I just picked up and I just started playing. Like, yeah. I played like my whole life, played on, at that point, like 1,000 songs, like, and he comes running back in the control room and he's like, you can really play guitar, can't you? And I'm like, if you say so, man, like I just, and he's like, okay. The guitar player comes back from lunch and he's like, hey man, thanks dude. I think we got everything we need. And the guitar player, he's like, oh, which was obviously a line. We hadn't even gotten through all the songs yet.
Yeah.
And the guy leaves. And as soon as he leaves, he's like, you're playing guitar on the whole thing. We're recutting everything right now. And I was like, oh no. And I had this like sick pit in my stomach because I didn't want to, like, it was my first big session in town.
Yeah.
And I had no intention of pissing anyone off or like this guitar player is going to hear this whenever it comes out, or maybe not, but like he's going to know it's not him. Like,
yeah.
And that's just it's a weird thing, like how to like handle those situations and how like being the right, like having the right etiquette. Like if I would have been cocky about it, there's no way I would have ended up playing guitar on that thing.
Yeah.
If I would have been like, hey man, like why don't you play, you know what I mean? Like, but the fact that I kept my mouth shut and was like, I'll do whatever the producer asked me to do. And even in the guitar playing, then I started playing the stuff and I'm like, okay, so I just assumed the role of session player. My job is to serve the song and do whatever the producer wants.
Yep. And the producer is kind of king.
Yeah.
If you're being hired by the producer.
If you're being, sure. Yes. Yeah, it was that was a wild one, man.
That's awesome. we literally had a class called studio etiquette in school.
That's amazing.
It was just on like putting you in all these hypothetical scenarios.
Yep.
And there was sort of like a metaphor that the teacher would use called like the Cheetos rule. And it was like anytime you're in a room where there's that situation, and there's a producer and an artist, or a producer and a musician butting heads, and you're in there. The situation, the hypothetical was you're the intern.
Got it.
Right, so you're not even being paid.
Yeah.
And the producer says, I think this sounds good, and the artist goes, I don't think this sounds good, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Artist thinks it does sound good.
Yeah.
Artist turns to intern and goes, what do you think?
What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
And it may be James Hetfield from Metallica asking you that.
Yeah. And you're like, this is my favorite band. This is my favorite guitar player.
He asked me for my opinion.
Yeah. And I love everything that this. You say, oh, man. Oh, that's a good question. Hey, I was just going to run and get some Cheetos. Did you, could I get some for you guys? Either one of you guys need some Cheetos?
Yes.
You just say nothing.
You just get out of that situation.
You get out of there. You say nothing. Be polite and
respectful.
Offer something.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? I actually got to hit the bathroom. Can I get a coffee while I'm out for you?
Yes.
You guys? You guys good? And because the concept that they said was think about when you're asked for an opinion, think about what you're being paid for. What have you been paid to do?
Have you been paid to give your opinion?
Correct.
Or have you been paid to get coffee and wind mic cables?
And if you're not getting paid, you shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
And you get out of the room.
Yep.
Because the second you go, actually, I thought it was pretty good.
Yep.
You're just trying to be nice.
You're pissing someone off.
The producer goes, great, you're fired.
Yes.
Get out of here. I don't even know your name.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
your whole career at that studio is done.
Yep. Instantly. That etiquette thing is I feel lucky that I had the wherewithal to, or maybe you know what? I might have even saw some like early episodes of Pensado's Place.
Oh wow.
Talking
How long
about
has that been going?
Oh man, like 2008.
Whoa.
2009.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
No idea. I've only seen like 4 episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Honestly, it changed my life early on. Because since I had no formal education and no even training, like my first session on Pro Tools was at that studio. So I did a bunch of records myself. And then I finally got on at the studio that we would have hired. And I convinced another band to work with me. And it was like, oh, okay, so I'm going to go into this new studio that I've never worked on, gear that I've never worked on, a console I've never used, in Pro Tools that I've never used. And like, that is one of those situations where someone else can do it and they're not any smarter than me. That like served me well, because honestly, that should have terrified me. And I was like, I'll figure it out. How hard could it be, right? So I walk in, band loads all their stuff in. The other engineer at the studio, he goes, okay, F12's how you hit record. Good luck.
Oh, that guy.
I didn't know how to use a patch bay. I didn't know how to assign inputs to Pro Tools. Like, I'd never worked in a DAW before.
Were you there before the band?
No, the band was standing there when that happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
Brutal.
And so, like, that's the level of, like, training that I had, which was zero, like, absolutely zero. So when Pensado Students came out, I found my buddy Trent Moore, who was, like, a rap producer in Peoria. He was like, hey, have you heard about this Pensado Students thing? And I'm like, no, what's that? And he's like, they're, like, interviewing all these, like, huge dudes.
Yeah.
And this was, like, episode 4. Like, I found it, like, super early on. Episode 1 through episode maybe 30, like, was the most formal education I had ever had. And I still remember episode 22 was Jack Joseph Puig, which is the entire basis for my Magic is in the Mid-Range tutorial. Like, that entire concept of that video, the biggest video I've ever had, is based on Jack Joseph Puig in episode 22 of Pensado Students, or Pensado's Place.
Wow. I had no idea it's been around that long.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the first one I saw was for sure after I'd already lived out here. I thought it was like a new thing when I found it. I had no idea.
That's the OG. Those dudes were doing that forever. Like, and it was for me, it was incredible, because it was like I said, there's no formal training. I didn't go to school. I didn't have, I wasn't an assistant to anyone. It was just like watching these interviews and I would watch them. Like that Jack Joseph Puig episode, I probably watched that 15 times in a single week.
Yeah.
And like, how do I pull every drop of what he's saying out of this so that way I can incorporate it into, it felt like such a gift at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like what we do now is like so normal. There's so many engineers on YouTube making educational content.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was like such a privilege to even be able to, for free, watch these all-stars, these A-listers talk about like their ideas and their concepts, and it was life-changing, career-changing. Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, so good.
2008. Let's see.
You in high school?
I was a junior in high school. I had an interface. I had a CNC drum kit.
Okay.
I was recording.
Yeah.
In fact, I had videos on a secret YouTube channel, which we will not name, that are still there.
Link in description.
And because the initial thing that got me into recording was I wanted to make YouTube drum covers.
Okay.
That's why I got into recording.
What was dude's name that was crushing? Is it Cobus?
Cobus, yeah. He lives here now.
Does he?
Cobus, where are you? You're supposed to be coming over this week.
I haven't even thought about that guy in a long time, but he was the first.
He's got 1 million subs now.
Does he? Yeah. That was the first dude I ever saw do like a playthrough or like a cover of anything on YouTube.
Yeah, it was all this. It was Paramore, Avenged Sevenfold, like he's great. He would do like Backstreet Boys, like super huge.
Yeah.
And that I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting up here playing these songs for myself, just for fun.
Sure.
And like, I want to make a video of me doing this, and I want to record it. What do I got to get a mic? What's the bass drum mic? Mm-hmm. I went to Guitar Center. I was like, hey, what's the bass drum mic? He's like, you need auto-tune. I bought auto-tune for $400.
Everyone needs auto-tune.
And
for drums.
Yeah. Shout out Guitar Center.
Oh no.
But eventually, yeah, I got an interface. My stepdad bought me one, and I asked for Christmas. I asked for like a pack of mic stands from Musician's Friend. It was like a 10-pack for like like nothing, garbage.
I have
stands.
those like,
they're like,
yeah, yep, garbage, but quantity. At least
but hey, now they're on stands.
Yep,
big clunky, and that's how it all. Same 10-pack of cables. It was just trash, but it was. But it went into Logic.
Yep,
and that's how it all started. But the initial spark was I want to make YouTube videos.
Wow.
And engineering will be a part of YouTube videos. And then what a wild start. So I messaged Cobus about that, and I was like, because I saw he re-entered my awareness or whatever.
Yeah.
After moving into this house.
Yeah.
And I saw him on Instagram, and I replied to his story.
Yeah.
And I told him this. I'm like, dude, cool story for you.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. 15 years. Jesus Christ. A while ago. 17 years ago. I got in. I saw your videos, drums, recording.
Yeah.
Then I went to recording school, wound up working with name drop.
Yeah.
And then full circle, now I'm making YouTube videos about engineering.
Yeah.
Or, studio stuff. And he like immediately replied with the voice.
Yeah.
And was like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest thing anyone's ever told me. He was like, you literally just made my whole entire month. He was like, also, oh my gosh, you worked with Muse? Like, bro, can you connect me? And he's like, haha, I'm kidding, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, but really.
Yeah. That's amazing. So were you like watching YouTube like back in the day?
Yeah. My first uploads are in 2006.
See, I knew YouTube existed.
Yeah.
The earliest YouTube video I remember watching was Ken Block's Gymkhana 1. Do you even know what that is?
Nope.
He was in a WRX car, rally driver, just doing this stuff that I had never seen a car do in my life.
Okay. Car stuff.
2006 maybe?
Yeah.
And that's the earliest video I have any recollection of.
This is pre-Google YouTube.
Way pre-Google YouTube. Yeah.
2006. They bought in 2007, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and then YouTube for me was like, oh, did you see whoever, fill in the blank? Did you see BB King's performance on this show? And it was always at Flores. There was a computer there, right, by the front desk, and it would be like I didn't even have a computer, as a super broke young adult. Like I didn't even own one, and you jump on YouTube and look at it, or hey, did you see Journey's new singer? Oh, you'd YouTube it or whatever. But like YouTube in its entirety was outside of my peripheral for whatever reason forever.
Whoa.
And then like I started pushing Instagram real hard after I moved here to town.
Whoa.
Oh yeah. No, I mean forever, for my entire adult life.
Oh my God.
Check this out. Okay. So I didn't like the earliest episodes, the earliest videos on my channel were like podcast style, like this.
Yeah, I remember.
Where like I would get these questions. I had like a decent following on Instagram, and these artists would ask me questions like, how do I get a manager? How much should I charge for this gig or whatever? And I felt bad because I was working on 100+ songs a year already at that point, and I didn't have the time to reply with a real educational answer to all of these people.
No one does. Yeah.
So I just started making these videos of like, here's everything I know about how to get a manager. And so I'd put my iPhone up, whatever, iPhone 7 or whatever it was, and I'd have an SM7, and it would go into Pro Tools, like exactly what we're doing now. And I would do these like 30, 40-minute videos. And at the end of that 30 or 40-minute video, the time code on the iPhone was so bad that the audio would be 3 or 4 seconds off from the video. And then I was trying to edit that together, and I was a terrible editor, and it was awful. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to buy a camera. What camera do I buy? Let's look on YouTube for the best camera. And that was when I found, we're talking like 2018. That's when I found Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat. And I was like, oh, wait.
The glory years.
Oh, being a YouTuber is a thing? Like I didn't even know that until like 2018.
Yeah.
I had no idea that you could like just do this thing.
Yeah.
No clue. And then, like probably everyone on planet Earth, I was like, what if I just did Peter McKinnon in a recording studio? What if I just was exactly like Peter McKinnon?
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, dude.
just exactly like. And so then I was a total Peter McKinnon ripoff for about 6 months. And
shout out to Peter McKinnon, man.
yeah. But like, it's wild that like watching YouTube, and now I don't even watch TV. I watch YouTube.
Yeah.
Like I don't. If my wife isn't next to me watching whatever on TV, I'm just watching YouTube, and that is only in the past like 4 years. I didn't even realize that was a thing. I didn't even realize you could just be entertained by YouTube. I thought it was just a place where you just looked a couple things up, or I need to know how to replace the valve in my sink, or like,
whoa,
crazy.
Let's get serious for a second here.
I like being serious.
Colt Capperrune.
Yes.
How much is Apple paying you?
I see where this is going.
How deep into Dolby's pockets are you? Is your name even Colt Capperrune?
No, it's not, actually.
I'm doing trailer bits right now. I'm going to cut these into dramatic.
Please do. I signed a 10-year deal with big tech and big pharma.
Can you even talk about this?
Yeah, I'm not under NDA. Big pharma sent me an offer for a 10-year deal. Pharma. And they wanted me to push Dolby Atmos because they thought that it would drive home studio owners so bananas that they would have to go on antidepressants. It's all perpetuated by Big Pharma.
I knew it. Guys,
those comments were out of control.
They're just truth tellers. What is it that you have against truth telling?
What is hilarious to me is that I have just over 100,000 subscribers, right? Like, in the terms of YouTube channels, very, very, very small channel in the grand scheme of what a YouTuber could be. And the idea that people were commenting, literally asking what the music industry is paying me.
How much does the music industry tell you to say?
Like, what is the music industry? Like, it's like some underground lizard people organization with its own agenda for world domination, and they have deep pockets. And like, oh yeah, Atlantic and Columbia and Warner are definitely all working together to pay me to perpetuate an idea about how we should consume. Like, that's just so ridiculous to me.
Yeah. It's
hard to wrap my head around, like, where do you come up with an idea that's that far out?
You know, I empathize to an extent because I love a good conspiracy theory.
As do I.
Conspiracy, I like to think that I coined the term conspiracy romantic, but that is my genre. That is my love language. But sadly, the reality is much less interesting.
Almost all the time.
Almost all the time. I wish it was somebody. I remember somebody asked me about working on big sessions and like writing sessions, and I like this person, but they really like conspiracy theory. Like they like them. They truly believe them, like sincerely, and are worried about things.
And we're not talking like,
I'm talking about world.
We're not
dominating.
talking. Yeah, but we're not talking about like conspiracies that are likely true, like JFK assassination and stuff like that. We're talking like lizard people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was asking about, how they write lyrics that message certain things that have satanic messaging, and because they're trying to control and they want to do this stuff, and they're like, I already know that they changed the frequency from 432 to 440 because our natural state of our human frequency is 432, and they did it so that we're in a state of frustration and this and that.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, you've been on like big writing sessions. You've seen how they do it, right? What is it like? And I was like, dude,
Please tell me you just played all the way into it.
I was like, I wish. Oh my God, dude. I wish that was happening. I would love to be like, yes, dude, you know what they care about?
They did a child sacrifice in a seance right before they wrote these lyrics.
They passed around adrenochrome, and we all had to do a blood oath. I'm like, dude, it's the dumbest group of people 100% of the time that are in there, and they're going through songs that are already charting, and they're copying them.
Right.
And they're like, okay, we'll do a beat that's like this. And they're like, what if we talked about like a breakup, and then somehow we could like get Dr. Pepper in there? Like, what if we could put Dr. Pepper, like what rhymes with Dr. Pepper? I'm like, that's
how people write songs.
That's like in the pop world.
Right.
Like that's what my experience was.
Yeah.
It was like, please kill me.
They're just trying to come up with an idea that makes money.
Hey, could we get some Starbucks in here?
Yeah.
Again?
Right.
You know, like it's the dumbest.
Yes.
It's torture being in those rooms. In a sense, which, you know, but I'm like, dude, there was nothing, you know, I mean, it is just people who are all trying to find a break.
And half of the people who are literally acting satanic, it's just a marketing stunt.
Yeah, they're trying to get attention.
Like whatever is it, Sam Smith or whatever on the Grammys, or or Lil Nas X last year, or like all these. It's just attention. The vast majority of it.
I wouldn't know those people if it weren't for those stunts.
We are sitting here talking about those people and actually dropping names, which means it worked.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, not that there aren't like Satanists and whatever that exists. Like all that stuff exists, but like the vast, overwhelming majority of the entertainment and music industry, let me just say music industry because that's what I know about.
Yeah.
They're just trying to figure out how to get clicks and how to get people to talk about them and how to get people to listen to the song.
Yep.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
And they're willing to sell all the way out and do literally whatever it takes to get hits.
Yeah, I wish there were more validity to these cool conspiracy theories on at least in the music world.
Unfortunately.
It's you know, the Atmos thing is like, it's happening. You know, I'm guilty of being like, bro, is this a fad? But it's like, it's happening.
Right.
The fad, like, it's not really a fad when movies and music and the biggest music distributors and play it like
when you open Apple Music and nearly everything on the homepage is in Atmos.
When you put your AirPods in for the first time.
Yep.
And they're
defaulted to Atmos.
And they're just set to spatial.
Have you ever taken your cell phone and played something from Apple Music that's in spatial and hold your phone like 5 inches away from your nose? I swear to you, it wraps around you in this like unfathomable way out your iPhone speakers.
On that note, could you connect me with Tim Cook?
We go way
Tim,
back.
Let me know. I could be your guy.
Can we get a check over here to Andrew, please?
Cut me a check.
He's ready to buy into the conspiracy theory and the fad. He just needs a check.
I'm for sale, guys.
Let's make that happen, okay?
I'm like a cheap Colt.
And like when you scroll through stuff on Netflix and like every show that you watch has a Dolby Atmos or mixed in spatial icon next to it. Or like when you realize that every premium car manufacturer, Mercedes and Cadillac, and like they all have Atmos systems in their premium cars. And then if you look at history and you realize that everything the Mercedes S-Class has ever done in history eventually trickles down to the Nissan Sentra over 10 years. And we're talking like fuel injection and anti-lock brakes and seat belts and like Apple CarPlay and like, I mean, literally everything. And so
I drive a Mercedes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Guys, I'm super
tough
rich.
being a trust fund baby.
Yeah, I everything was just handed to me. It's awesome.
But like, you know, when you see that level of integration behind it, and also even the ones, even if they're not talking about it, all of our favorite mixers have an Atmos room. Like all of them. CLA, Ryan Hewitt, Vance Powell. Like you just go right on down the list.
I don't know if I have a favorite mixer.
Really?
I'm not super into mixing. I had my mixing dreams crushed when I started working at a tracking studio.
Okay, well, fair enough. There was a period of time, and I still have a soft spot for this, that like 2008 to 2013-ish arena rocky, Howard Benson, CLA, Ted Jensen, like that assembly line of hard rock music.
Mm-hmm.
To that, I have a soft spot for that stuff.
Yeah.
The Hailstorm, the Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all that's Daughtry, like have such a soft spot for that stuff. And CLA was what is the person who made me fall in love with mixing. I was like, oh, everything that he touches has a sound to it, and I wish
a stamp on it. Yeah.
And I wish I could get my stuff to sound like that. And so I just tried to be CLA for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I realized there was one day, hopefully CLA doesn't see this. There was one day where like the third Hailstorm record came out, or like whatever album it was, and I'm like, that's the exact same snare sample as the last 6 records.
Yeah.
And it was literally a moment. And I'm like, I'm over it. Like,
I'm
going to do my own thing. I'm going to try to create my own sound, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like in comedy and acting and everything else. It's like you have like the people you look up to and you admire, and you take from them things and use it as like a stepping stone into your own thing. Even
the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Peter McKinnon, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I did say, what's up like at the beginning of every video.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that I was literally copying him. It was just the inspiration.
Yeah, I did a Casey Neistat video as my first YouTube. When I started doing this version of it, which was like intentional, like I'm gonna make YouTube videos. My first one was for sure a Casey Neistat vlog. Like I didn't realize when I was doing it. I was thinking like, oh, I love that when Casey like goes from place A to place B, there's like a shot of him like grabbing his keys, walking, the door closes, him, it's already
starting
up the hall,
car.
he's walking through the hall, like I was like, oh, I love that. So I did that.
He spent so much time on that stuff.
Yeah. And I sent the video, as no one watched or knew that I was doing it. So I sent it to a couple friends, and one of my friends knew who Casey was, and I didn't say anything. I was like, dude, check this out. I made a YouTube video. And he's like, dude, this is like a great Casey Neistat ripoff. And I was like, oh.
How dare you?
But then I was like, damn, you're right. It's like, whoa, I didn't even realize.
Yep. You just saw something. You thought it was super cool. You wanted to do something super cool.
And, but then I did sort of an analysis of like, okay, well, what's going to be my thing?
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out like how I wanted to do it. So I was basically like, okay, well, what's interesting to me? Like there's zero chance I can guess what you're interested in, but I can at least try to understand what I'm interested in as a viewer. So I went to my YouTube, and then I hit history, and I just scrolled through the videos, and it was like Casey, Peter McKinnon, Casey. And I was like, oh, I guess there's something to these two dudes that I guess I watch a lot of this is a little embarrassing. I watch a lot of their stuff.
Yep.
Not even like realizing you're just clicking through, but that was when I really started to think about, the how I would go about doing it and stuff, because I hated anything that was studio related content before I started it. Like I would go to YouTube as someone who had used YouTube for over 10 years, and I would be like, I want to learn Ableton.
Yeah.
And then I'd start watching something, and I'd be like, kill me. Like, I can't watch this. This is the least interesting, worst videos ever.
My thing with that stuff was always, and I don't, nothing I'm going to say in this is meant to be cocky or I'm better than anybody, but the music that are used in YouTube videos, like for gear demos or for mixing, so much of the music is just so awful.
Yeah.
And I understand it because getting permission to use someone's music it can be difficult.
Sure.
But like that was the thing that I'd be like, oh, what does this compressor sound like? And I'd look up every video on that compressor, and I'm like, every single sound example they've sent through it is awful.
Yeah.
I don't know what it sounds like because it sounds like garbage.
Yeah.
And so that became like the thing that I focus on a lot is like the music. Even if you don't like the song, from a quality standpoint, I try to make sure the music that I use for gear demos or whatever is like, you can go listen to it released. You know what I mean? Like it's already out.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to railroad you there.
No. Yeah. Let's wrap this thing up.
Okay.
What's next?
Just trying to get this acoustic plan wrapped up for my room, build the new ceiling clouds and do all that stuff. Make videos around all of it. I'm trying to create this evergreen piece of content since it doesn't seem like Atmos is a fad, and it feels like if it's not gonna be the standard, it's at least gonna live equally alongside stereo, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to create this piece of evergreen content where there's like 8 videos, 10 videos. And like, if you just watch all 8 or all 10, you know exactly how to choose the rig, tune the rig, set the rig up, how to get started mixing in and all that kind of stuff. So that's really what my plate is full of at the moment. I have, in anticipation of tearing my room apart for like 6 weeks, I have stopped taking on new work for like months now. And I'm like 2 weeks from being like, all the work's done. There's no more music to work on. And I have never had that in my entire adult life. And so that is terrifying and exciting all at the same time. But yeah, just that. And then once everything's back up and running, go time, and this might be too much inside baseball, but I'm really, really going to try to push forward and focus on like climbing the career ladder more, like bigger records, working on more stuff that charts, maybe win a Grammy someday, like really.
Just one?
Yeah.
Once you're like, all right, now I'm going to just do YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've always had these aspirations. My whole career has been built around the idea of being a CLA or being a Howard Benson or being a,
yeah.
And I think if I have been coasting in my career for the past 3 or 4 years, like not pushing upward, just like the work comes in, I do the work, I kick the song out, onto the next. Yeah. And once this room is done, I'm feeling the fire of being ready to really try to push this up a notch. And honestly, that fire is being fueled by everyone telling me that I'm an idiot. And not everyone, but like there's some real big industry professionals. There was a dude that had won 9 Grammys in my email inbox a few weeks ago telling me how much of an idiot I was. And I have not felt like in the early years of my career, I felt like my back was up against a wall financially, like I didn't have a choice. Yeah. And it fueled me. Yeah. And I have not felt that fire in a lot of years. And I have it now because of those messages and because of those comments.
Let me show you.
Let me show you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough quality to have as a human. I have it too. The second somebody tells me I can't do something, it's now my mission to do it.
I am going to prove you all so wrong.
Now I have to do it. I didn't really care about this thing, but now that he says I can't do it, I have to be the best at it.
Yep.
So this is your fault.
This is your fault. And I'm going to send you a new message when I achieve what I'm going for.
Yeah, what was that last thing you said?
Uh-huh. Yep. And we have had this conversation before. It's funny when you've been doing this finally long enough that certain things start coming full circle.
Yeah.
And like the people that fired you or told you you were an idiot or whatever come back to you asking for help.
Yep.
Luckily, I think we've both been really fortunate to experience that a couple times.
Yeah.
and I'm going to make sure that keeps happening. It is bittersweet because I would have rather not dealt with the hardship in the first place.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
This was super fun to just literally just sit here and talk and not. Well, I guess we are filming.
We do this all the time on the phone, and at the end of every 2-hour phone call, we're like, we should have just recorded that.
Yeah. Well,
thanks, dude.
I'll put links to your stuff.
Thank you.
If you guys aren't following him, give him a follow, subscribe, all that stuff. And
I teach people how to make lattes at Starbucks, according to Mike Cole.
Great shoes, great coffee,
Thank you.
great vids and records.
Thanks, man.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.